Namaskar. Welcome to this session. We are supposed to commence understanding the Samprajnat Samadhi. The Samprajnat Samadhi, as we saw, was of 4 stages: Vitarkanugata, Vicharanugata, Anandanugata, Asmitanugata. So this is a progressive inwardliness. Since Samadhi is an intuitively mystic process, it is all in internalized conditions. It's in the internal realm. The Samadhi processes are all internalizing and internal processes called Antarmukhi. And then there is progression. As we saw, the Vitarka supports were grosser metaphysical supports, Vichara were subtler metaphysical supports, and in the subjectivism, you ultimately come to the subjectivistic entity. So there comes that Ananda. Satchidananda is the description of the Atma entity, self entity. And therefore the Anandanugata came, and then Asmitanugata is just the existence. So it is such existence where there are no delimitations. The delimitations are in the form of caste, class, creed, gender, status, stature, condition, age. So we always attribute these things to our subjective entity, that we have a caste, we have a creed, we have a race, we have ethnicity, we have genetic background, genealogical background, we have gender, we have age, we have conditions, we have state, etc., etc. So we cannot be really conceiving ourselves subjective entity without these facets. Whereas in the metaphysical realm, the self doesn't have all that. So that is the asmita. Asmita means merely being, not even state of being. No condition of being, no state of being, and just the being. And we do experience this just being, although not very empirically, like in state of dreamless sleep. Who are we? We don't have caste, class, creed, status, stature, age, gender, name, parentage. We are nobody's nobody, and nobody is nobody to us in a dreamless state of consciousness. So that's very mysterious aspect of our consciousness, which is state of sleep. Who are we while we are asleep? So we are nobody's nobody, and nobody is nobody to us. Everybody is nobody to us. Anybody is nobody to us. We are nobody to anybody, everybody. So that's a mysterious condition, the state of sleep. Of course, which we will be discussing when we go to Nidra Jnana in a sutra that is going to follow somewhere in the middle of the first chapter. So, it is very intriguingly said that, say, if someone is sleeping, we say John is sleeping. But one who is sleeping is not John, because that self doesn't have a name. That self which is fast asleep doesn't have name, doesn't have nama rupa, doesn't have any attributes, characteristics by way of caste, class, creed, gender, status, stage, ethnicity, genealogy. Nothing is there. So that is how the Asmita is described. It is like an ocean, but no ruffles, no foam, no bubbles, no waves. How would be that ocean? That the ocean doesn't have any wave, any foam, any bubble, any ruffling. So that's how this being is described as such an ocean which is endless. While, on the other hand, that very being, the self, is extra atomic in dimensions. It is Anumatra. It is Anumatra, but yet like ocean. So, that's a mysticism about the I-ness. And of course, in our course of discussion, we will be coming to the that Asmi, the Aham, the metaphysical I, the self. Anyway, so that Asmitanugata Samadhi is the one which gives Sattva Purusha Annata Khyati, Viveka Khyati, which is the highest point in intellection, Jnana, intellection. There is no intellection beyond that point. That's the terminal condition of intellection. And therefore, many of the translators were kind of tempted to call it as cognitive trance, because they thought it is cognition. Vitarka is a cognition, Vichara is a cognition, Ananda is a cognition, Asmita is a cognition. However, that kind of idea has lots of flaw. However, Samprajnata Samadhi has been rendered as cognitive trance because there is Jnana. Because there is Jnana, it is cognitive, and therefore they call it cognitive. But there are more flaws and hardly any propriety in using such translation. So therefore this Asamprajnat Samadhi got to be called as ultra-cognitive trance. Ultra-cognitive. However, as students of yoga, we should not be trying to translate these terms. We must maintain these terms so that we maintain the implications, nuances, and we don't compromise with it. But otherwise, in translations, we will be certainly compromising. So this is Asamprajnata Samadhi. Asamprajnat means beyond Samprajnat. Now, as I said, there is no vritti world beyond Asmitanugata Samadhi. That's the highest point of intellection. That's the supreme most kind of chitta vritti. There is no higher chitta vritti than Sattva Purusha Annita Khyati or Viveka Khyati or discriminate discernment again, as it is translated, which I don't really favor. And for right reasons. In education, we should not be we should be avoiding the translations and maintain the words since they have technical status. So, Asamprajnat Samadhi means beyond Samprajnat. That is the meaning. Transcending Samprajnat field is Asamprajnat. Because somewhere the field of Samprajnat would be ending, and when the field of Samprajnat ends, therefore it is called Asamprajnat. It is not a nomenclature as such. It is not a nomenclature to Samadhi. It is not name given to a Samadhi. What is not Samprajnat, what is beyond Samprajnat, yet a Samadhi, is a Samprajnat Samadhi. So with Viveka Khyati, which is the fruit of Asmitanugata Samprajnata Samadhi, last of the Samprajnat grade, the fruit of it is Purusha Khyati. Yes, Sattva and Purusha both are distinctly discerned, experienced intuitively, mystically, and not just in information and not in just knowledge, but intuitively, mystically. So, naturally, the yogi would be going for Purusha Khyati, because this being a spiritual pursuit, like when we sort out the rice, cereals, we remove the stone particles there, so that we can be cooking the cereals and will be able to eat rice. So in that sorting out, we remove those non-cereal solid particles, which are tiny stone particles. We sort them out. And then we collect the rice part of it, which is totally sorted rice. So similarly in Viveka Khyati, the sattva is sorted out, and then only the other aspect, which is Purusha, Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati. The Purusha is embraced. Purusha is something like, in case of cereals, we opt for cereals and not the other aspects in the rice. And then we cook, and then we eat it. So similarly, Purusha Khyati. So Purusha Khyati comes up. And that comes up because of giving up Sattva Purusha Anyata Khyati, Viveka Khyati. So that's the last restraint, final restraint. There can be no further restraint than that. So it's a final restraint which is of Viveka Khyati. So Tat Param Purusha Khyate Guna Vaitrushnyam. That is the Paravairagya. That Viveka Khyati is Sattva exalted state. Sattva Guna exalted. Now that is set aside. See the strange thing in the practice of yoga, the practices of yoga. In practices yoga, we'll be trying to collect, amass, stack up, build up, embrace Sattva Guna. That is how the yoga is, that we are trying to collect Sattva Guna. We want to add to our Sattva Guna. We want additions to our Sattva Guna. We want the magnification of Sattva Gunas. We want to amass Sattva Guna. Now we go on collecting, whereby we will get a discernment of the self. And the discernment of the self will come by restraining that, restraining the Sattva Guna manifestation. That's a Gunatita condition which comes in Bhagavad Gita and in Adhyatma. So we are going for Sattva Guna, we are in the gravity of Sattva Guna, we are seeking after Sattva Guna, we are trying to add to Sattva Guna, we are trying to earn Sattva Guna, amass Sattva Guna, collect Sattva Guna, and go on adding to it, to ultimately to be given up. And that is why it is called Paravairagya. The Guna Vaitrushnya means Vitrushna, Vigata Trushna for Sattva Guna, and not the three Gunas. The other two Gunas are already left behind. Now only Sattva exalted manifestation is Viveka Khyati, and then that too is restrained. That is Purusha Khyati. So now the Prakriti has been set aside. Refined and exalted, pure Prakriti has been set aside. And then Purusha Khyati is opted for. And that is the Asampragnat Samadhi. Now, the self is not an object. the self is not an object. And therefore, there are no objective supports in asampagnat samadhi, which are there in sampragnat plane. There is always a subjective, there is always a support of an objective entity, grahya and grahana. Of the nature of Panchamahabhutas, Panchatatvas, Panchatanmatras, Ahankar Tattva, Buddhi Tattva. So these are all not self. These are all non-self entities within us. And therefore, they are as objects of samadhi. And therefore, it is having objective support in sampragnat plane, while now it is Purusha Khyati, Purusha Tattva. Therefore, it is not an object in that sense, and therefore there is no support. Therefore, this is called seedless samadhi, supportless samadhi. If you recall, I told you that it is a spiraling process. Vitarka is a larger circle of spiral, Vichara is little smaller, Ananda is further smaller, Asmita is further and further smaller. So it spirals out gradually. And then beyond that, the last support is sattva, buddhi sattva. When that too is discarded, then it is supportless, it is seedless. And that is why it is called virama pratyaya. Virama. All the pratyayas, it is not that there is rejection of pratyaya, it is end of all pratyayas. So, virama pratyaya means cause, virama means end of something. So that which causes virama, that is virama pratyaya. That which causes supportlessness, rather end of all supports. No support is available now, no support is possible now, no support is needed now. So that is the kind of supportlessness. The literal word supportlessness doesn't have that implication. Here, there is no support, there is no possibility of support, there is no need of support. That is the meaning of supportlessness here. So the cause of supportlessness, which is abhyasa purva, which is preceded by abhyasa of sampragnata plane. So it implies that from sampragnata plane only one can enter the asampragnata plane. There is no bypass to sampragnata plane and straight away land into asampragnata plane. So the process escalates. Virama, the vitarkanugata to vicharanugata to anandanugata to asmitanugata. And now with asmita anugata coming up, now there is no support available, no support possible, no support needed, no support available. Therefore, abhyasa purva. So the journey will commence. If you recall, during sampragnata, I told you it starts from grosser pranayam. So that process escalates uninterruptedly. You can't interrupt at sampragnat and say, now in the next session I will go to asampragnat. It is not possible. There must be continuum. This is implied in the process. This is the implication of the process. So gross pranayam, subtle pranayam, pranava pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi, vitarkanugata, samadhi, vicharanugata, samadhi, anandanugata, samadhi, asmitanugata. Now all supports have ended. There are no supports available. Therefore, it is virama pratyaya as well as abhyasa purva. but it must be preceded by Samprajñat process, which starts right away from grosser pranayam. So the Abhyasa Purvaha preceded by the whole Abhyasa aspects, having the stages of gross pranayam, subtle pranayam, pranava pranayam, pratyahar, dharana, dhyan, samadhi. So there is a continuity, continuum. Therefore it is Abhyasa Purvaha. And then Samskara Sheshaha. Only samskars are there as support. Now which are these samskars? These are Nirodha samskars. Because if the Nirodha samskars are not there, Samadhi is revoked. As long as the Nirodha samskars are in profusion, Samadhi will be on. If the samskaras, Nirodha samskars are dwindling or withdrawn or set aside, Samadhi is revoked. And therefore in Asamprajñat Samadhi there is only samskara shesha. There is remainder of samskars, and samskar means only Nirodha samskars. If you recall, we had considered this process: Nirodha Parinama, Samadhi Parinama and Ekagrata Parinama. These are the Samadhi actualizes. So, the Nirodha samskars will be supporting the whole structure, and therefore it is samskara sheshaha anyaha. So that is how the sutra is. Virama pratyaya abhyasa purvaha samskara shesho nyaha. Virama pratyaya means all samprajñata vrittis have been restrained, or there is a cause to restrain all the samprajñata vrittis. What is the cause of it? Paravairagya is the cause of it. And then it is a continuous process from samprajñat to asamprajñat. It is not that samprajñat is one class of samadhi and then sometimes there is asamprajñat as another class of samadhi actualizing. No, it should not be construed that way. Samprajñata itself leads the yogi into asamprajñata. Without that samprajñata process coming as a precursor in that continuum, continuity, there is no asamprajñat samadhi. So it is anyaha, therefore anyaha, it is other than, precisely transcending. It is transcending samprajñata, that is asamprajñata samadhi. Now, if you recall, we had considered this aspect that Om is a master key. So Om is coming in the process where we said pranavatmak pranayam, Om in the pranayam, the Soham in pranayam. That is vital component. Now this Om initially will be giving vitarkanugata. If it is next stage, vitarkanugata plus vicharanugata. If it is next stage, vitarkanugata plus vicharanugata plus anandanugata. If it is to be going to the next stage, it is vitarkanugata plus vicharanugata plus anandanugata plus asmitanugata. Now the Om still is there. And then that will land into a samprajñata plane. Now when the Om is coming in samprajñat plane, it is coming as seed. But the Om, when it is coming in asamprajñata plane, it is not coming as seed. Now it's again a little mysterious aspect from the Nada Shastra point of view. So it will be interesting to know what happens to Om. Because if you say Om has ceased, then you can't expect asamprajñat samadhi to be still floating on it. if you remove the Om from there. End of Om means end of Nirodha Samskars. So, the Om is still there in a Sampradaya Samadhi, but it doesn't come as support. Now, this intriguing aspect in Nada Shastra, you will get the clarifications. In the Nada Shastra, in Nada Yoga, in the very mysterious concept of Nada. So, we need to understand that. Om is the phonetic expression of the pranava. Now in Nada, we'll have to take recourse to analogy from music or Sangita Shastra. See, an artist will, in classical Indian music, will never be having his music without a drone instrument called tanpura. It is indispensable. The tanpura, the drone instrument, is indispensable. It is always there at the background. If the tanpura is gone little out of tune, a musician cannot find an excuse that I was absorbed in my music and I did not notice that tanpura had gone out of tune. It is never ever possible. So understand the importance of the drone instrument at the background, that it cannot go out of tune. The moment it goes out of tune, howsoever absorbed is a musician, he will be distracted by the out of tune drone instrument and he will tune it again. He will adjust it. So that's how like a musician cannot say, I was absorbed in my music and my instrument went out of tune and I did not notice. It doesn't happen like that in music. Howsoever you are absorbed, if the instrument is gone out of tune, you will immediately notice it. You have to notice it, you will notice it, and you will again adjust it, tune it, and continue your music. So that's aspect of Nada. Now, if you recall, I said there is a Pranava Japa. Pranava Japa is the key of all samadhis. So it will be launched on Pranava, it will be thriving on Pranava, it will be evolved on Pranava. Now this is Pranava Japa, Pranatmaka, which is called Soham Sadhana, or it is silent utterance of Om that takes place. It's not that yogi goes on uttering Om loud with an oratory organ. It is not an oratory act. If it is to be leading towards yoga, it has to be silent utterance. It is within the mind. Now, the musician, he tunes his tanpura. Now, suppose he wants to have another tanpura, 2 or 3 more. He will tune first tanpura, keep it on the floor, take the second tanpura and start tuning it, which will be matching the first tanpura. So he will be trying to match the second tanpura on the pitch, the same pitch on which the first tanpura is tuned. Now nobody is plucking the first tanpura, it is kept on the floor. Now the second tanpura is being tuned to the same pitch. And when it perfectly matches, by this Spanda Siddhanta, by theory of vibration, the tanpura which is not being plucked, which has been laid on the floor, will start vibrating in resonance when the frequency is matched. So that's the sign that the second tanpura has been matched in frequency with the first tanpura. So that will be also kept on ground, and third tanpura will be picked up and the third tanpura will be tuned. And when the frequency matches, while the tanpura in the hand is being plucked, the 2 tanpuras on the floor are not being plucked, yet they will resonate. It is because of matching of frequency, which is aspect of physics. That when the frequency matches, the instrument vibrates. There is a consonance. Now, the two instruments are not being plucked. One instrument is being plucked. Others are without being plucked. They resonate. Similarly, Om is such a thing. Om is such a thing. You might utter Om orally. You can utter the Om mentally. You have an utterance. So that is ahata, that is plucked. You are plucking the Om when you are uttering it either expressly or silently, either in Vaikhari or in Madhyama. It is being uttered with sound or without sound. But the mysticism tells us that within us we have anahata nada. The Om is going on within our psyche and consciousness. The Om is resounding in our body of consciousness. At the core of consciousness, there is resounding of Om. Now, when the mental Om and that Om have matching wavelength and wavelength, then your Om doesn't need plucking from oral organ, mental organ. It will resonate to that Om, which is going on within the heart. In the mysticism, it is said that heart is resounding with Om. That is called anahata nada. Anahata, not struck. Nada, not struck. That is going on. That's why it is called anahata nada. So when your mental Om is in perfect resonance with the Om that is going on in the heart, then utterance stops because of the resonance, because of the matching frequency. So your mental utterance will stop, or it will be merged in anahata Om. And that is why the Om support is withdrawn. Om support coming from psyche, consciousness is withdrawn. Now the Om that is going on mysteriously in the heart takes the lead role, and that will create resonance in every aspect of yogi's embodiment. The whole embodiment will have resonance to anahata Om. So this ahata Om will dissolve. That is why it is nirbija, it is supportless. In that sense, that Om is also no support. Your mental, voluntary Om ceases to be there because of the amalgamation that happens with Om, which is resonating within the heart right from one's birth. So that's why it is called anahata nada in mysticism. It is anahata Om that is going on. And therefore, the Om that was taken support after the initial course of pranayam, when the Om came in, Om was incorporated, if you recall the expression. Now that is dissolved in essential Om, inherent intrinsic Om, Nada Paranama in the heart, and therefore there is also Virama Pratyaya. So Om has not ceased, but the Om at the core is now giving resonance to entire embodiment. The entire embodiment is now having resonance to that Om, and therefore it is Virama Pratyaya. So the Om support is there in one sense, and Om support has ended in another sense. The voluntary conscious Om has been merged in that primordial, primeval Om which is in the heart. Otherwise, we in the modern world only know that the heart has beats, and heart goes on beating. So we only know that heart beats. There is a pulsation, but we do not know this aspect, which is only divulged by esoteric anatomy physiology, where there is Om within. So then that's how it is supportless in one sense, but it has the whole edifice of Sampragnata Samadhi, which is of the earlier phase. The edifice is of from Gras Pranayam to Asvitanugata Samadhi. That edifice is there to support. That support is there. But then there is no support to Samadhi. Samadhi doesn't have support. That is why it is supportless Samadhi. The Samadhi doesn't have in bija, because from that you don't engender anything of the nature of karma, of the nature of vasana, etc. It doesn't engender anything. There is that nirbijatva. It is seedlessness. So it doesn't have seed, it doesn't remain as seed. It is neither seed. Asamprajñat Samadhi is neither a seed nor is having a seed. In that sense, it is seedless. So that is Asamprajñat Samadhi. Now, Asamprajñat Samadhi is in the realm of Purusha Tattva, which is nominal, which is avyakta, which is unmanifest, which is having no dimensions, no form, no color, no shape. That's how the self is. Now there is another thing similar to that in the realm of Prakriti. That is called Avyakta Prakriti. The primordial matter is also similar. As far as the Avyaktata is concerned, unmanifestness is concerned, that is both in Prakriti Tattva as Mula Prakriti, and it is also in Atma Tattva, the self. So there are two probabilities in Asamprajñata Samadhi. So the nominal unmanifest is both primordial Prakriti, primordial matter, Mula Prakriti. It is called Avyakta. Atma Tattva is also Avyakta. Purusha Tattva is also Avyakta. That Avyaktata, being nominal, not being phenomenal, having no size, shape, color, form, etc., both are identical. Therefore, Asamprajñat Samadhi is of two kinds. If the Ishvara Pranidhana is profound, profused, then it won't be misleading into Prakriti. But if it is little deficiency in Ishvara Pranidhana, that if there is no deficiency in Ishvara Pranidhana, then it will be giving Purusha Tattva divulgence. But little deficiency, it is possible that yogi will drift into an Asamprajñat Samadhi, which is merging in matter, merging in primordial matter, merging in source matter, mistaking the source matter being Avyakta as the self, because both are Avyakta. Like suppose there is total darkness in room 1 and room 2. It is really difficult to distinguish between the total darkness of room 1 and room 2, because they will be similar. the total darkness of room 1 and room 2 will be similar. You will not be able to distinguish between the darkness, total darkness distinct between room number 1 and room number 2. So darkness is such a thing that it will be identical anywhere. Total darkness in Asia or in America or in Europe will not be having distinctions. It will be identical. If it is a total darkness, absolute darkness, it won't be having any distinctions or distinctive marks. Similarly is the case of avyakta. There will be no distinctive mark. And therefore, there are two kinds of asampragnata samadhis, to which we will be considering at a later point in time, perhaps in the following session. So this is how the asampragnat samadhi is mentioned. It is asampragnat samadhi. It is beyond sampragnat samadhi. It is post sampragnat samadhi. Then it is virama pratyaya, the cause of absence of final vritti, which is sadasat viveka vritti, or which is sattva purusha anyata khyati. So it is cause, or it has a cause for absence of this sattva purusha anyata khyati. Now what is the cause? The cause is paravairagya. So that is the meaning of virama pratyaya, first word of the sutra, defining sutra. Then abhyasa purvaha means sampragnata purvaha. And samskara sheshaha means nirodha samskara shesha. That's only the residual. That's only the remainder. So therefore, sakala shunya vritti. If Patanjali has spoken about complete restraint of chitta vritti, that kind of yoga is this. So therefore Vyasa explains, sarva vritti pratyastamaye samskara shesho nirodha chittasya samadhi asampragnataha. Sarva vritti pratyastamaye. So all the vrittis are restrained. And how all the vrittis? By restraining the last vritti. By restraining the last vrittis, all the vrittis are restrained. By restraining the last vritti, which is exalted and final and culminative vritti of the nature of sattva purusha anyata khyati, that being restrained, all vrittis are restrained. Because by the time it comes up, all other vrittis are restrained. This is an implication which should be understood, which should be registered, which should be noted. Samskara shesho nirodha. Samskara shesha nirodha chittasya samadhi asampragnata. So merely with the residual samskars, which are called nirodha samskar class, they are only on subsistence. They are only existing. That is asampragnata samadhi. Tasya parama vairagya upayaha. That's why it is called upaya pratyaya, paravairagya, guna vaitrushnya, sattva purusha anyata khyati vitrushna. That is the upaya. That is paravairagya. And therefore the samadhi is now characterized, salambano hi abhyasaha tat sadhanaya na kalpate iti. Salamban samadhi will not give this samadhi. The salambana samadhi must get accomplished and must fall off. That will not give rise to this samadhi. It is not that asampragnat samadhi is founded on sampragnat samadhi, although it is precursor. It falls off like stages of spaceship fall off. So it will fall off. So then comes virama pratyaya, nirvastuka alambani kriyate. So no vastu, no objective support should be there. Objective support should come to an end with the final support given up. Therefore, it is such a artha shunya. There is no artha, there is no object. So, sakala vastu shunya. Such a artha shunya means sakala vastu shunya. No objective support is there in this samadhi, for this samadhi or by this samadhi. So that is how asampragnat has been explained and described. That is why it is called niribija samadhi. Kim hi chittam niralambana abhyasa praptam iva bhavati iti esha niribija samadhi asampragnataha. So arthashunyata, because of arthashunyata, it becomes seedless, supportless. And therefore, it is called niribija samadhi. So sakhalu ayam dvividaha, just now I told you. Asamprajñat samadhi will be twofold. Because Mula Prakriti revelation is also asamprajñat samadhi subject. And Purusha Tattva revelation is also a asamprajñat samadhi support. So there is a chance that one might drift into Prakriti plane and will have a samadhi, which is asamprajñat samadhi, no doubt, but it doesn't have spiritual samam bonam. While asamprajñat samadhi, which has the Purusha Sakshatkara aspect, Atma Sakshatkara aspect, that has spiritual samam bonam. So there are two kinds of asamprajñat samadhi. They are called bhava pratyaya and upaya pratyaya. So the asamprajñat samadhi, which I gave you introductory information, now we'll culminate the session today by telling you that there are two types of it. One is called bhava pratyaya, the other one is called upaya pratyaya. So let's try to understand two types of asamprajñat samadhi. But that is for next session. Enough for time being. Namaskar all of you.